Hello, thanks for joining me. In this video I tell two tragic tales of needless deaths for which no one was ever held accountable. On the morning of Wednesday the 4th of March 1914, Mr. and Mrs. Phillips of Glanreed Farm in Conwell Elford parish were going about their business when Mrs. Phillips noticed that her brother and sister-in-law's cattle on the neighbouring farm of Blindby Newydd were not yet out in the fields. She'd seen the family on Sunday in chapel and all was well, but she was a bit worried, so she sent her boy over to see if anything was wrong. He found the cows still in the cowhouse and the dog howling by the door and returned home. She went over there quickly but could get no answer at the door. It wasn't locked, so she went in. Upstairs, to her horror, she found the farmer and his wife, John and Mary Evans, dead in bed, and in another bedroom, Elizabeth, their daughter, also in bed, also lifeless. What had caused all three members of this household to die in their sleep? A doctor was called, but he would not hazard an opinion as to the cause of death. An autopsy was carried out and samples sent off for analysis. It was revealed at the inquest that John Evans was in the habit of drinking herbal tea for his bad back, but he made it himself out of chamomile, bog bean and peppermint. That didn't seem likely to kill anyone. It also came out that the Evans family had complained that there were fumes coming through the faulty chimney, and they burned culm balls, a cheap fuel made by mixing anthracite dust and clay. The local jury were convinced that this was the explanation, but the coroner was not satisfied. On the following Saturday, John, Mary and Elizabeth Evans were laid to rest, side by side, at Brynnewan Chapel. The funeral was attended by a great crowd of local people, and the inquest resumed on the following Thursday. The herbal tea was not referred to again, and all inquiries were directed towards the question of fumes. Mr. Phillips of Glanreed told how the chimney at the farm was defective, and when the wind was blowing in a certain direction, it didn't draw properly, and John Evans had tried to remedy this by placing a flagstone on it, but it hadn't worked. Not only that, but by Elizabeth's bed was a decrepit old cauldron containing half-burnt culm. It turned out that she was in the habit of lighting that fire in the cauldron upstairs in her bedroom. There were no fireplaces in the rooms upstairs. This had been the cause of suffocating fumes upstairs before, and John Evans had told his daughter that she could take it up to the room, but she should take it back down before they went to bed. Elizabeth's room was very damp. No wonder she wanted some way to warm it up before she slept there. The report from the public analyst confirmed the fume theory. He found carbon monoxide in blood and tissue samples from all three victims. The jury were vindicated, but they were angry. They had been right all along, and they were not happy that post-mortems had been carried out to confirm the original assertion that the fumes from the fire were the root of it. The coroner, of course, needed proof, but tactlessly said, ignorant people in the country might not think it was necessary. It seems John, Mary and Elizabeth died because they lived in a dangerous house. The chimney they'd complained about had been repaired 3 years before, but the repairs had actually made it less efficient. They had no fireplaces in their bedrooms upstairs, and Elizabeth's bedroom was damp. This meant that they had no means of heating, and crucially, the rooms had no ventilation. It was a tragedy waiting to happen. The landlord was based in Ireland, far, far from Blindby Newydd, and deaf to their complaints. He was neither sought after, nor did he face any penalty for their death, but his negligence was surely responsible. In December 1915, the following year, the same coroner called an inquest at Elen, some 15 miles away, into another similar case. Elen, Susanna Adam and her husband and family were refugees from Ostend in Belgium. Fighting in the First World War had displaced them. They had left Ostend in November 1914 and stayed at first at Llanglydwen until September, when they'd moved to the schoolhouse at Pantycaws, which had become vacant. Mrs. Adam was suffering from a cold, and so a fire had been lit in her bedroom by her husband at 6 in the evening, some 3 hours before she and he had retired to bed. The fire was made up with culm balls and sticks. It had smoked a bit, so he'd left the door ajar, but Mrs. Adam complained of the draught when she went to bed and shut it. At about midnight, their married daughter, Madame Salien, asleep in the adjoining room, heard cries and found her parents gasping for breath. She roused the neighbours and a doctor was called. Her father recovered consciousness at 2 a.m, but her mother died. Dr. Price of Llanderwen was in no doubt of the cause of her death. He'd noticed a sulphurous taste in the air, and both had shown clear signs of carbon monoxide poisoning. He considered the defective chimney to be the cause. Again, no one was considered liable. The jury gave their fees to the widower, and Madame Elen Adam was buried in the peaceful chapel yard of Hebron Independent Chapel, where her grave is marked by this stone in Welsh. It says that she, along with her family, came from Ostend, Belgium, escaping the Great War in 1914, and she died in December 1915 at Nantycaws, aged 54. At the bottom is a bit of Bible verse, the first part of Genesis 23, verse 4. I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. This passage of the Bible is the one in which Abraham's wife Sarah has died while he's in Hebron, and he asks the Hittites if he can buy some land to bury her. They offer him their best tombs to lay her body, and give him the cave of Machpelah. In this churchyard, named after the same Hebron where Sarah died and was given a tomb by strangers, Elen Susanna Adam was given her Machpelah by strangers, the congregation of this chapel. Let me know your thoughts about these tragedies in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.